Hey everybody, welcome to Point of Disorder. This is going to be a very special episode because we are fresh off the Michigan Democratic Nominating Convention, and we do have a special guest with us that I will introduce in just a moment. But I want all of you to go right now to all of your social media profiles, follow us at Point of Disorder and at Distill Social and at Hiddo. Head in the office.
Head in the office, all platforms. Glad to be back.
Jeremy is here.
Yes.
Say what's up to the people, Jeremy.
What's up to the people? Hello.
And also, we have our very special guest. Now, the Michigan College Dems, this is a big group, everybody, and they are part of why we are seeing a more progressive push in the Democratic Party in the state. And we have one of their fearless leaders. We have Stella Camerlingo. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Camerlingo.
Camerlingo.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show, Stella.
Thank you guys for having me. This is super awesome. This is very interesting to be able to go on a podcast and honestly talk about how I feel about this convention.
Yes,
so I'm excited. I'm excited.
You know, we don't want you to hold back because you know what we all experienced, or you know, you and I experienced at the nominating convention was something
crazy.
Was something quite crazy. But for all of those who do not know, the nominating convention is where we pick quite a few important offices for primaries. The Republicans and the Democrats both have one. And we select attorney general. We select nominees for secretary of state. And we also pick some other smaller offices, board of regents for University of Michigan and leadership for the state schools and stuff like that, as well as Board of Education and Supreme Court. And Stella, you were part, and I want to get this out the way first, you were part of a massive movement of college students from all across the state making their way down to Detroit to make their voices heard. Tell us a little bit about what that was like and what the energy was like when everybody got to Huntington Place in Detroit.
Oh, well, I just want to first off start by saying it is finals week this week for a lot of our college Democrats. And so this was no easy feat to get a lot of them to convention. But essentially what we did is we had buses, we had gas cards, we had parking vouchers, and that was all thanks to the progressive candidates that were able to pay for the buses and trips down. It was crazy to see that many young people be able to come into a space and actually make their voices heard and win. It was actually absurd, and I am still kind of trying to shake the high that I have felt for the past few days since the convention. So it was definitely a unique experience. We had a College Dems caucus for the first time in like years, where a bunch of young people were able to come together and talk about things and listen to candidates, and we fucking won. Like, that was crazy. So it was a cool experience overall, and I'm very glad to have had it.
Yeah, and you know, at the end of it, and we will talk about some of the, how shall I say, drama that unfolded. But before we move any further, we do, you know, the nominees are going to be Garland Gilchrist for Secretary of State, is going to be Ellie Savit for Attorney General, and in a really quite surprising turn of events for a lot of folks is that Jordan Aker did not win.
Thank the God.
For Board of Regents.
Holy moly.
Board of Regents at University of Michigan. And Stella, I want to start there because as in the leadership of College Dems, and clearly you all made your voices heard on this particular race very loudly.
Yes.
You know, why was it important? Like, I want to know this because as somebody who has been out of the college sphere for many years, you know, why did the students feel the need to not nominate Aker?
I have a lot to say about this.
Okay.
I first off want to start off by telling a story from when Jordan Aker first cut DEI at the University of Michigan. I'm a student at the University of Michigan, also lead the College Dems chapter there, co-lead it with my amazing co-chair, Jolene. And when that happened, Trump did not threaten the university at all. They just came out and cut it like this without any sort of threatening from the Trump administration. And Jordan Aker came to one of our College Dems executive board members and asked if he could begged if he could explain himself and why he did that and why he was to cut all of these programs without a single threat from the Trump administration. And our member asked him straight up, are you able to do this in your official capacity as a University of Michigan region? Are you able to talk to students and explain to them why you were able to do such a thing as a region? And he essentially said, I'd have to do that kind of on the down low, kind of silently. And so we essentially were like, absolutely not. We don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. And that's just one of the things. He also voted to ban gender affirming healthcare at the University of Michigan Hospital, which passed through, and now they don't do that. He also was a very, very core reason as to why a lot of our students are being tried and were put in jail during the entire encampment process when young people just wanted to make their voices heard. And I think that really, really shook something in us to be able to mobilize and organize against that, because we want regents who are able to listen to us directly. And we did not hear a single peep from him after everything that happened, in terms of what he's done with like gender affirming healthcare, what he's done to our trans community, what he has done to our Palestinian brothers and sisters, and what he has done to like people of color in the university. It's really fucked up. And I think the fact that the party wanted to put him forward as our regent candidate again after all of that is kind of crazy and stands against everything we stand for as Democrats. So just gonna be honest there. That's my 2 cents.
I ultimately love to see dickheads lose. Like, at the end of the day, I love to see a dickhead lose. And look, there's a lot of people that had a lot to say about Amir Maklad, the guy who actually won UM region.
Yeah.
And sure, there's some comments in the past that we can condemn and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like you said, if you didn't want it to be Amir, then maybe you shouldn't have run the most demonic guy you could find.
Yes.
Like that's kind of that's all it is at the end of the day.
Well, and I mean, and I think the big thing here is that we just get this out the way. Like, we condemn any form of anti-Semitism or any support for Hamas or any of them types of groups. But let's just be for real. All right. Criticizing a person for their stances or what they've said or what they've used their positions of power for has nothing to do with anybody's ethnicity. Not that I saw, and I was in the room. Now, I'm not saying that certain things may or may not have been said, but I didn't hear them. And if people were being, racist or anti-Semitic or to anyone, they should have been removed.
Yeah, and it's just we can't be the party that's quote unquote anti-Trump and then elect people who have capitulated to Trump at every turn. Like pre-capitulated, as you said. Like the U of M wasn't being threatened about their application of like trans healthcare for children, but they still gave it up anyways. Why would we ever want to vote for people who were in charge of making that decision if we actually want to oppose what this regime is doing?
And the fact that he ran on standing up to Trump was actually
shut your bitch ass up, dude. Come on.
Yes. And I was getting those texts. From his campaign, and I was like, false.
Yeah.
Somewhat true. False. You suck.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what the crazy part is that immediately in the 24 hours after, or excuse me, the 48 hours after the convention, Detroit News puts out a story saying that the university is going to have to investigate him for inappropriate texts about students.
Oh, yeah.
And so you kind of get to this moment where you say...
He's evil.
Think about the scenario if which the party elects this guy and immediately he is under investigation. Like if you were talking about a situation where you've given the other side all the ammunition they possibly need to destroy your chances at winning an election, there you go. I think the young people, for me as somebody who is no longer young, I'm not a young man or old man, I'm just man. And what I saw in the room, and I just kind of want to speak overall, what I saw in the room was a party that is ready to move to its next phase.
yes.
The young people, and by young, I mean anybody under 35, 40 years old. The young people are standing up and saying, what you've been doing for the past 20 years, we no longer fuck with.
Yep.
And it's time for us to move on. And I think that was put in no more clearer terms than what we saw between Abdul El Sayed and Haley Stevens. Because we got to talk about this. I mean, it has been the talking point.
It has.
Coming out of out of the convention. So I want to start actually with Jeremy because you were on the outside.
Yeah.
And so as somebody from the outside, how did this come off to you? Because it was all over social within seconds.
Oh, I love seeing Haley Stevens get booed. I mean, she deserves every second of it. And there was a lot of pearl clutching afterwards, like, oh, Democrats shouldn't be booing other Democrats, or we should give her time to speak. But like, at the end of the day, if we want to oppose the Trump regime, we got to do it. And it's the same thing that we talked about with Jordan Aker. Like, Haley Stevens has a number of times capitulated to the Trump administration before she was even pressed into doing it. So like, yeah, a lot of Democrats aren't going to like her. And ultimately, the negative reception was unsurprising. I mean, I guess it was sort of surprising because like I didn't expect to see a bunch of people booing her at the Democratic convention. But based on her record, I'm not surprised that a lot of people don't like her that are engaged with the party infrastructure.
Yeah, and I think I also want to say, like, after the convention ended and everyone started, I guess, complaining that there was a progressive sweep, especially the moderates, it kind of felt as though moderate Democrats wanted to be some sort of oppressed minority. Like, they're complaining that their candidates lost, but it's because they didn't care enough to mobilize for their candidates. The progressives were the ones that were pissed off enough to be able to get all of these people into a room and actually vote for the candidates they wanted to see on their November ballot. Right. And you know what? A lot of them won with double digits, Ellie Savit included, who was the underdog. So like, I don't understand all of this complaining when, as a party right now, and progressives have been told this for a very long time, unify to elect our Democratic nominees to go into the November election. I don't know. It's a weird double standard because we progressives have been told this for so long, and now they're complaining and they don't want to unify. Like, it's so weird.
A lot of moderates do think they're just entitled to higher public office.
Yes.
And that if progressives out-organize them or get in their way, that they're doing something that's like destroying the party or making it easier for Republicans to win in the future. And it's like, well, if you want to win, if you want to achieve higher office, you got to offer people something.
Yes.
That's how democracy works. And you don't get to complain when you lose because people don't fuck with you.
Well,
like, that's just how
the
it goes.
thing is, really two of the building blocks of progressive movements currently are overwhelmingly popular with everyone, right? If we're talking about M4A, once you sit people down and explain what M4A is, and that's Medicare for all of our neophytes, Medicare for all, overwhelmingly popular.
Especially with Democrats.
Right, especially with Democrats. But even when you go into some of these rural areas who are being defunded from and don't have hospitals anymore, and you tell them, hey, dude, you just pay taxes, so you should be able to go to the hospital. Cool. That's popular. Then defunding from foreign wars.
Yep.
Popular with everyone. And now I'm going to add a third pillar by saying getting money out of politics. Overwhelmingly popular with everyone.
Yeah.
So if you are going to put forth a platform that might actually be able to cut through noise and maybe, I don't know, God forbid, have some Republicans or moderates that might slide over and vote for you, make it about the issues.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw in real time. In real time, I saw it myself. When Abdul Al-Sayed got up there and he spoke, and by the way, I could tell he'd been in the gym, and not just the physical gym,
He was
but
pumping.
the mental and the verbal gym.
Yep.
All right, because Brody's rhetoric was on point. But the point is that he got up there and he kept it about the issues. He did not attack anyone personally, but we kind of all knew who he was talking about.
Well, and he even condemned the booing afterwards.
And he condemned the booing, and that's the thing. Which, by the way,
Better man than me.
I'm gonna say this, and I'm not saying this to stir the pot, but I'm saying this is like, y'all, we got to stop being soft. Like, you got to stop being soft, okay?
Yeah.
If you're going to be a part of this political process and booing is the thing that you're upset about, like, we cannot do this,
Half
y'all.
your job is to eat shit as a politician.
Right.
Like, that's the
true.
job.
That's true.
Like, a public servant, you're supposed to serve everybody else. You're beneath everybody. That's the job.
Like, if somebody stood in that room and, like, I don't know, like, burned the Israeli flag, I would be like, we should literally fight this person. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Don't do that. This is a little bit much. But, like, a boo.
Yeah.
Come on, y'all.
Yeah, in a crowded room. Like, come on.
Come on. What are we talking about? But I do want to go back to what you were saying about sort of this progressive sweep during the nomination convention, because I was also surprised. I thought that Gilchrist was gonna walk away with the SOS nomination.
Right.
But the AG, it was a toss up for me.
Fucking insane.
Yeah.
By the way, like I have been talking about it for so long, and I still am processing the fact that Ellie Savit won in double-digit numbers. Like that's crazy to me. He was at more of a disadvantage than when Dana Nessel first ran, because she had some union endorsements, but not many of them. Ellie barely had any. I knew the unions were going to try to stuff rooms to vote for Karen. But I think what we saw is that young people and progressives were able to out-organize them and not only bring young people, but they also brought their friends, their families, their boyfriends, girlfriends. I know some college Dems that reached out to their elementary and middle school teachers and got them there. My professor's roommate was volunteering for Ellie Savit at the convention and got some folks there. And so I think what we saw is like, no money, no, like, you can't, times are changing, and just having particular endorsements and relying on those to get you across the finish line is not enough. You're going to have to be able to out-organize the other side, and I think that's definitely what we saw, and we saw a ton of youth support for Ellie. We had, like, most of the staffers on Ellie's campaign were former college Democrat leaders. A lot of the interns were current college Democrats and high school Democrats, and they were the ones that eventually got him across the finish line. But never in my wildest dreams would I have thought it would be in that margin. Yeah. It was crazy. I remember when I was watching Garland speak, and I was so nervous. I kind of blacked out when he was speaking because I knew it was either going to be Karen or Ellie next. I just didn't know who it was. And then I started getting texts like, you need to come backstage right now. And I was lost. I was like, what's happening? And then someone texted me, I think like Ellie just won. Mm-hmm. And I cover my eyes, and I low-key like folded down and started bawling my eyes out. And everyone was like, is this happy or sad tears? And I was like, happy tears. Ellie just won the nomination. And then so I like ran backstage and I gave everyone a hug. And then while I was on stage, when I initially walked backstage, there were a bunch of Amir folks back there, and like they were cheering, and I thought they were cheering for Ellie, but it didn't clock to me that they were backstage because they just won the Regents race. And so I run backstage and I go up to Rashid, who is me and the homies love Rashid, he's great, and Rima Muhammad, and I'm like, did Amir just win too? Because never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that this would have been a possibility. Like, a lot of college Dems came in like very hopeless, and I think that was the very first time we saw hope since before the 2024 election. Like crazy. Never in my wildest dreams could I have imagined something like that happening.
You know what? And I wanna touch on this. And Jeremy, I'm interested in your thoughts, because for me, I look at that and I say, cool, there's your blueprint. There is your blueprint for the general.
Yeah.
And that was my thought as well. And one thing that always amazes me is, like, I didn't pay a ton of attention to the Democratic primary for the AG's race, right? Like, I knew Ellie, I knew Karen McDonald, and I knew broadly what they were about. But the thing that really gets me is that the thrust of Ellie Savit's campaign, at least from my perspective, was him saying, like, hey, I'll be a thorn in the side of these corporations. And Karen McDonald was like, I won't. And it's like, one of these positions mobilizes people and the other doesn't. And like you said, that should be the blueprint. And what blows my mind is that is the bare minimum. Like, and that's not to discount any of the organizing that Ellie Savit's team did or any of the positions that he took, which I am in favor of. But it's like, it's so bare minimum. Like, I will not place corporate interests above yours. It's so basic, man.
It's so simple.
It should be the bottom line, but it's not. And I think that's
the only guy I've ever heard talk about like wage theft.
And I also, yes, that's my goal. I love when he talks about wage theft. It's so nice and appealing, and his messaging actually like resonated with people. You can't just run a vibes-based campaign on social media because it's not effective.
Especially when the vibes are dog shit.
Like, I just don't understand why. Crazy.
But my thing is that it's the blueprint, because if you're the Democratic Party, right, and your objective is to maximize turnout, because as we know, when you maximize turnout, Democrats tend to win. Yeah. So if your objective is to maximize turnout, and you see what just happened, that massive amounts of college students and young voters and first-time convention goers
record
and
numbers,
all different record numbers, the biggest convention you've ever had. if I'm party leadership, I go, well, I mean, sucks to suck, guys, but I guess we got to go over here now because this is how we win. And why is there not a commitment to fucking winning?
That's the thing is, and this is, I think, the deeper issue with the Democratic Party is that a lot of those in the establishment don't want to win with a progressive base because that will hold them to account to doing certain things. They want to win
things that help people, maybe.
Exactly, but they want to win with a constituency on their own terms. They don't want to have to win by building these bridges and different coalitions to groups of people that will demand that they actually go and do stuff against the interests of corporations and defense lobbyists and all this other sort of stuff.
So let me put it this way, all right? I am a person that watches a lot of sports, and I love a team that can play good defense. That's what I like to see. But guess what? If you don't score, you ain't winning shit.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to change the game plan in order to win the match, right? Or in order to win the game. And I see this, I see the Democratic leadership, and I think they have a huge opportunity on their hands to win over people like you and to win over people who think like you and to win over the more progressive wing of the party and to say, all right, y'all made y'all point. Let's go and get this win, and let's finally, take the reins of the country, back, or at least the state.
Yeah, I also think, and I say this a lot, as someone who leads a caucus within the Democratic Party and also a youth-based caucus, is that Republicans have opinions about everything, but Democrats have opinions about nothing. I cannot tell you the basic fundamental building blocks of the Democratic Party because we don't really have them. Affordability, right? We talk about affordability all the time. How the hell are we going to do that?
And what does
we
it
don't
mean?
have a plan.
And that's obtuse. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
It's a Rorschach test.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not being beholden to corporations. How are we going to do that? We still have Democrats who are taking corporate PAC money in massive amounts of it, right? All of these things are very, very important to young people, and that's why they were able to be so passionate and go to this convention. But also, I wanted to mention that college Dems have been advocating for abolishing these conventions for so long and making them primaries at the ballot box.
Yeah.
They're incredibly inaccessible.
You agree with Noah Arbit?
Yes, okay, that's what I'm saying. The pendulum.
He only brought it up when his people lost.
Exactly. And I think, so we had a college Democrat who was actually working with State Representative Dylan Wagela to get something passed shout out Dylan. We love Dylan. To get something passed to actually amend the Constitution to abolish these primaries, and it never got really anywhere far in the legislature.
It will now after this.
And I'm literally saying, I'm saying now people who lost are finally understanding that is the way it should have always been. Just because you lose this one time doesn't mean that you should not be advocating for this. This should have been an issue that we have been talking about for years. And yet now, because the moderates lost, they are so adamant about getting this changed. So maybe, Noah Arbit and Dylan Wagela can come together and hold hands and actually pass some good legislation to get this abolished.
It's always how it goes, right? It makes me think of California got gun control once the Black Panthers took advantage of the Second Amendment.
Yeah. There you go.
Things only change when you use the rules against the people who will benefit from them.
Stella, you talked very briefly about the fallout and what was going on after the nominating convention. And, we do have this massive tweet from Kristen McDonald-Rivet, one of our representatives in Washington. It just feels so separate from where everybody else is. Let's just go through this for a second because it's huge. It's first of all, it's 5 posts long, which is already
take it to a publisher. Yeah,
way too much. She says, I'm the only Democrat who won in a Trump district in 2024. I know what it's like to win serving as the minority. What I saw on the MDP convention floor is deeply troubling for what it says about who we are, how we win, et cetera, et cetera. We create spaces for where everybody from a retired UAW worker to a farmer to a teacher to a student to me at Mass or Shabbat is respected and liked and welcomed. Essentially, what she's trying to say is that by booing Haley Stevens, you are all prejudiced.
Yeah.
And we should not ever boo each other or voice our displeasure with each other. And I think to me, that is a more divisive statement than booing a candidate who you don't like.
I think what's funny is that this kind of conversation, the progressive voices in 2024 were saying this exact same thing about the candidate that was running, about AIPAC, about what was happening in Israel, and the moderates literally just ignored it and swept it under the rug. And now that they're in a situation that doesn't suit them the best, they're doing the exact same thing. And I think that's very, very interesting and weird, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just I have a lot of thoughts, but I want to hear yours too.
Yeah, my main takeaway is so Kristen McDonald-Rivet, she puts out this big tweet, essentially a pearl clutching after Haley Stevens gets booed. And the main thing that I'm focused on here is that she says we need to focus on a unifying agenda. And then the first thing she talks about after that is rooting out corruption. What if rooting out corruption requires us to expel some of the corrupt Democrats in the caucus right now?
It should.
What if rooting out corruption and building a quote unquote unity agenda requires us to get rid of the people who are more dedicated to corporate interests than representing the actual people?
Yes.
That's the problem with big tent rhetoric, right?
That's not a partisan thing, though.
But in a vacuum, big tent rhetoric is fine, right? Like you want to include as many people as possible. But in reality, when you have a quote unquote big tent that includes people that both that includes politicians that actually want to represent people and those that are subservient to corporate interests, you have a tent that's fundamentally at odds with itself. That's not a coalition that can hold itself together, and it's not one that can make progress. So when somebody says like, oh, we need to focus on rooting out corruption, it's like, yeah, I think that's what the people on the floor were trying to do when they were booing Haley Stevens.
Yeah.
What I don't like about that particular style of rhetoric, and this is just my personal feelings, what I don't like about saying, oh, don't boo people at a convention, is number one, you're silencing people, which I thought we were supposed to be against that.
Yep.
But also, what you're saying is that, no, in the interest of decorum, in the interest of civility, that supersedes the fact that this person may be supported by organizations that bomb people, or this person may support policies that literally take money out of my pocket or make it so I can't go to the hospital. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be nice about that.
Yeah, and as far as we can tell, like it was a spontaneous thing. Like
It
Abdullah
wasn't planned.
came out and condemned it right afterwards. I don't think that like McMorrow's camp was organizing people to go and boo Haley Stevens. People at the convention just don't like her. And that seems more like a her problem rather than a problem with the people at the convention.
And I don't even think it's like to me, in that moment, that wasn't even a massive party problem. That was just like, no, this is the candidate we don't like.
Yeah.
And we voted like well, they didn't vote on her, but they voted in terms of we want the party to be more progressive. So they're showing that what she has previously voted for and stood for is not where they want the party to go.
Yeah, and I think like Democrats especially claim to be the party of democracy and transparency. But when we look at voting records, when we look at who's donating to your campaign, we can pretty transparently see who you're working for. And I think that was definitely what we saw on the floor, because like Democrats understand how to do research. They know how to research candidates, and they know who stands for them and not major corporate interests. And so I think that's something that we definitely saw on the floor. And also just like a general disdain for excusing a genocide. Like, I think the party has been ignoring that for so long. And I literally brought that up to Curtis Ertel directly when he was like, what do you think the Democratic Party needs to do to like change and get young people back in the party? And I basically said, like, you ignored a full-blown genocide. We saw it through our very own phone screens, and it was incredibly disheartening and dystopian for young people to be able to see something, a mass atrocity at that level. And it isn't even the largest genocide in the world.
And even like people like Haley Stevens would obviously disagree with the characterization that it is a genocide, and a lot of people in the Democratic establishment.
She said on CNN, she said, I don't think it's a genocide. You can watch the video.
But politicians know that perception is reality.
Yes.
Like when you have so many people in your coalition saying like, hey, this shit that you did is terrible.
Yeah.
You do have to reckon with that at some point, and they failed to.
I also think that like messaging is so important, and the fact that like, all of these candidates are saying, oh, I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting on behalf of the people. That's getting old. We hear that from every single candidate. Prove it. Prove it. And so like, I know, for example, like when it comes down to messaging, I know what Abdul Al-Sayed stands for. He stands for that big three: money out of politics, Medicare for all, money in your pocket, right? But like with her, I don't I don't see anything. I don't know what she stands for. I don't like.
And
she's just a Democrat with a D.
And that's an issue, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a thing. Because let's say in a vacuum, right, that all three candidates all agree on the same thing. Then it just comes down to who can get the message out better.
Yeah.
And people do not feel that she's doing the best job.
Yeah.
And they made that. So when party leadership is asking somebody like you, what do we do to get young people back into the party and to get out to vote? And then you see what happened on Sunday. The shit was answered for you.
It was answered for you.
You don't need
It's just not. It's not the answer they want.
It's just not the answer you want. And listen, everybody got to grow up and be adults and literally just look and say the solution is staring at us in our face.
Yeah.
And sure, it may not be the thing I'm the most excited about, but do I still want my job next year? Do I still want to be able to fly to DC and do all the cool shit and go to the all
Fancy
the
dinners?
fancy dinners and do all the things? Do I want to still do that? Cool. Then let's make it happen. But instead, I think there's a group of folks, and this is not has nothing to do with ethnicity, has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with anything. But I think that there's a group of people who are very upset that their investment no longer gives them the returns that it used to.
Yeah, and I want to say also just like, I think now the tides have shifted where just because you have a D next to your name doesn't mean that you have earned the vote of Democrats. I think we saw that at the convention, and we were able to pick out the people who actually we thought were going to fight for us, and young people and students, and want to hold all of our elected officials accountable. And like, I really, really think like we have a transparency problem. We have a messaging problem, and we need to run candidates that are actually able to like be ethical Democrats who are fighting for the working class, not just saying that they are,
I do want to ask though, like, because I wasn't at the convention.
Yes. Crazy that you weren't, by the way. Dude, that was like, I thought I'd see you there.
The mailers negatively polarized me.
Yes.
Like, I think I would give 10 years of my life if the Michigan Democratic Party never sent me a text again.
Yes.
Because there was hundreds of texts leading up to the convention. It was too much.
Yeah.
But
literally.
I want to ask, because like, so there's record turnout at the Michigan Democratic Convention.
Right.
Tons of people are there. The energy is high. Progressives win the day. But maybe I'm just like skeptical in my old age of 24 at this point.
Yeah.
But I worry that doesn't actually translate to primary performance or general election performance.
Yeah.
Do you think that the fact that there was record turnout and the fact that progressives won is a signal that things are going to go well later, or do we need to like take that with a grain of salt?
I mean, that is a really great question. I think what we're seeing on the ground, especially is young people standing for candidates, progressive candidates that are actually willing to fight for them. And it really depends on how we're able to like use that energy and the energy from convention and push it going onwards to August. I like don't want to, say anything based on vibes, but when the Senate candidates took the stage, and more so, and I'm going to be like completely transparent here, when Abdul went up on stage and he got that standing ovation, I turned to the person next to me and I go, that might just be our next United States senator. Like, that was crazy. And he fired up the crowd. He had a standing ovation. And that's something that I have not felt. I was at the DNC. I was at the DNC in Chicago. And I have never experienced something like that ever. Yeah. Like, that was crazy. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where the vibes are. I mean, I'm just tired of the vote blue no matter who. Like, I'm just tired of that. As someone who leads a caucus, like, yeah, we need to do better as a party. Yeah. And I think we saw that on Sunday.
Yeah, no,
sure.
I think it's unambiguously a good sign. I just worry that, like, we look at this, we get excited about it, and it won't actually translate to anything in the broader, like, statewide elections. Because, at least from my perspective, it seems like the people who attend the convention, it sort of selects for itself, right? Like, the most engaged people are the ones that are going to be there, but the most engaged people aren't the ones that necessarily decide elections. Yeah. So my worry is just that, like, maybe it's like a... Maybe it's not like a done deal, I guess, is what I'm saying.
That was kind of my takeaway is very similar to yours, Jeremy, where I see, okay, the politicos and the people who are super tied into what's going on, I know where they're going. I see where they're going. I see where the young people are going, and I see where the establishment is and was, and the interesting part will be how much do they shift or not shift, right?
Yeah.
But for me, the question is, okay, you have a massive convention in the middle of the city of Detroit, and maybe 7 to 8% of the room is black.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the part to me where I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, there's an assumption on where everybody's going. There's not a massive outreach, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you know, you break records at this thing mostly because of the efforts of, you know, progressive candidates and progressive groups and college groups and so on and so forth. But the party itself is not necessarily doing a great job at reaching out to that everyday voter,
as well,
right? And so my concern is that how do you then, as a party, say, these are our candidates, here's what they represent, go and vote for them, even though you've heard almost nothing. I mean, Garland will get votes no matter what. He's the lieutenant governor. He's from the biggest city in the state. People will recognize who he is.
Yeah.
Ellie's got an uphill battle.
Yeah.
I think all of the Board of Regents races, most people do not care.
Yeah.
And so how do you get to a point to where somebody like my little cousins and them will come out and vote for you? That is the thing that not just the party, but also the progressive wing of the party have to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, especially with what's happening out of DC, we're going to see a lot more people just vote Dem straight ticket because they just don't like what Republicans are doing.
I would agree with that, yeah.
And so I feel like the odds are already a little bit better than they were in 2024. But it's also going to take a lot of mobilization. I think when it comes down to messaging, like, I think they have to have strong messaging regarding, like, pushing back against Trump, actually, like, litigating against corporations, making sure that our right to vote isn't being, like, stripped away from us and swept under the rug. So yeah, it's going to take a lot of work. But I think when you look at what's been happening in these past elections, you're seeing, like, the Zoran effect. You're seeing, like, all these Democrats win in what were red states. The vibes are pretty good. I'm not going to say, I don't want to win an election based off vibes. It's going to take a lot of fighting.
It's turnout.
Yes, it is turnout. But also, like, when it comes down to organizing college students at that convention, I mentioned that, like, we brought a lot of random people too. We brought our family members. We brought, like, people who are teachers that, like, don't really usually come to these things. We brought, like, roommates and peers and coworkers and things like that. And I think that those are the normal people that are going to go home and talk to their friends about what they saw and then get them to go out and vote. I know my best friend is not politically involved. She's a pre-med student, but we are planning to go out and vote in the August primary together, and we're going to likely be voting for the same candidates. So I don't know, just encouraging, like, friends to vote, and on college campuses especially, we, like, are definitely trying to not just get people registered to vote, but get people registered to vote for the people that are going to be able to fight for us. So yeah.
So I want to change gears a little bit because typically when you go to work drunk, you get fired.
Oh no!
Unless you're the director of the FBI. Ooh. So a report in the Atlantic came out talking about our good friend Kash Patel and his, how shall I say, love of libations and the fact that he has been in a pretty much, 9 to 12 month stupor since he's taken office as director of the FBI.
I mean, I think I would be too if I was working for the Trump administration.
I mean, yeah,
I can't really blame him. But one thing I do love is, like, there's no story about Kash Patel where he's ever normal.
No.
He's always, like, the most insane guy ever.
Have you seen those eyes, bro?
Yes,
Come on, are you kidding me?
And his defense is always like, what? A guy can't rock? A guy can't be awesome and do cool stuff?
Yeah. I'll see you in Valhalla, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I never want an FBI director to ever speak this way. But I think the funniest part of this story is this. And Stella, I'm not sure if you've heard this. We've discussed it amongst ourselves. Yes. But apparently, according to this report and multiple sources in the FBI that the Atlantic spoke to, they've had to use a SWAT team to bust his door down because he was so hungover and was not appearing at meetings at one point.
That fucking rocks. Way. It rocks. Just a total waste of taxpayer money.
But my thing is this is the leadership that we have at the top. We're talking about the FBI. We talk about the people who have a 99.99% conviction rate. We talk about the people, these are the folks who are supposed to take the most heinous criminals
Yeah.
and put them behind bars, RICO cases, mobsters, people in charge of dismantling criminal organizations, stopping terrorists.
Yes.
This is what they're supposed to do. And this guy can't get it together. Imagine.
Well, I don't know if anybody ever expected him to get it together. He's a fucking podcaster. Like, he's got the same qualifications for the job that I do.
No, literally.
Like-
I don't understand how he got into that job in the first place. I'm going to be so real.
Same way that Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth got
At
the
least
job.
Pam Bondi has a law degree.
Is this
Yeah.
like DEI question mark?
It is.
DEI for stupid ass conservatives.
DEI
yeah,
question
But
I guess
my
so.
thing is like there was at least a bare minimum with certain people with the Pam Bondis in
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
Like she was
Well,
AG.
Matt Gaetz was the original pick.
That's exactly. The original pick was
my
Matt
God.
Gaetz till he
So,
got caught up.
Slight improvement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Kash Patel is the most unqualified person to lead the FBI I've ever seen, and now he's continuing to prove it.
But
Yeah.
I think he's my favorite Trump administration official because he is just so funny, man. Like the original controversy with him was that he was using taxpayer money to fly around on his jet to go see his D-list country singer girlfriend,
Country
who's
bumpkin?
allegedly like a Mossad agent as well.
Crazy.
So like, I mean, this guy, I think he might be what any random person would be if you gave them that much power out of nowhere. So you can't really fault him.
You
for
know
it.
what? Maybe that's it. I never
Yeah.
looked at it through that lens. I've always looked at it through the lens of like, no, this is supposed to be a responsible adult. But like, no, this is like if I were to pick the like dumbest person I went to high school with
Exactly.
and let them run the FBI. Yeah, they
Yeah.
Hey,
probably,
you're running federal law enforcement now. Don't fuck it up. I think they'd
Yeah.
fuck it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're probably right. Okay, speaking of the girlfriend,
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
there's another honeypot happening currently.
Hate
Not
to see
this, not this one around. Now this is crazy.
What happened?
So there's a gentleman by the name of Andrew Hugg. He is the U.S. Army Branch Chief for Chemical Nuclear Surety.
Cool,
This is the
cool,
man
cool.
to make sure that nuclear reactors do not melt down and that our bombs do not explode underneath us. Yeah, he's been put on leave since April 21st because an undercover journalist basically got him to divulge all sorts of nuclear secrets by going on a date with him.
Dude, is this a Trump guy
God.
specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Yeah, no, there's not a single Trump administration official that can shut the fuck up. Like, they always want to tell journalists exactly what they're doing, dude. It's so funny.
I feel like a lot of them are teenage girls at heart. They love to gossip, and especially with people they don't know. They'll spill their guts with one drink. Like, it's crazy.
It's just like the Susie Wiles Vanity Fair story where she just told that journalist everything.
Yeah.
They all are like that, dude. It's kind of
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
No, I think it's because they're all lame and they're not used to that kind of attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like if you were a person who was halfway put together through your high school and college years, you know, the attentions of somebody you find attractive is not particularly shocking or crazy. Definitely not enough for you to divulge nuclear secrets. But these are not those people. You
Yeah.
got to remember, these are the people. This is the grievance politics group. So having women talk to them is
So I do have a question though. Who is currently in charge of all of our nuclear secrets now that he's on leave?
Well, there's a team in place,
Okay.
so he has a deputy.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he has a deputy. But in the video, apparently, he tells this woman, this undercover journalist, the existence of chemical weapons, nerve agents.
Cool.
way.
He discusses nuclear strategy.
Brother.
Says that we're not going to nuke Iran. There's no plans to nuke Iran. You know, nobody has told us about this.
Oh, like it's up to this fucking
Yeah,
guy.
he went out and said, you know, if another guy from the Iranian family pops up, the family that the Ayatollah's family, if another one pops up, there's plans to kill them too. Literally, if this human being was in charge of anything else,
Crazy.
war's over.
No.
Yeah.
Like war's over. Like everybody's dead.
I don't know where they find these people because they're all like every Trump administration staffer is just a different shade of the same guy.
Yeah.
And they all love gossip. They're all extremely drunk and they're all dumb as hell.
They're also all just narcissists. They all think they're better than everyone else because of the position of power that they're in.
Yeah.
And you can see that with Stephen Miller. You can see that with Kash Patel. You can see that with all of them. They love to drink and they love thinking they're better than everybody else. And it's crazy.
The drinking thing is so funny too, because like Trump has this moral hang up with drinking alcohol because his brother died from alcoholism.
Yeah.
But everyone in the cabinet is drunk as hell all the time. How does this happen? How does this happen?
Diet Coke.
I don't get that part. That's actually a really interesting point.
There's
I never
gotta be
even
something-
thought about
There's got to
that
be
like
something
that.
deeper, like psychologically going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just like, I don't know, birds of a feather, but who knows?
Yeah, and I think the last point about this that I think is hilarious is as he is being recorded, he says, the easiest way to get intelligence is to send a pretty girl.
No fucking way. He said that?
He says this.
He was like,
out
honeypots are a
loud.
great idea.
These have to be the dumbest motherfuckers on earth, and they literally are in charge of nuclear secrets.
Crazy.
Dude, the only scandals in the Biden administration were like, he's too old, which everybody knew anyways from the beginning. And then like Gaza, of course.
Yeah.
But there was never any scandal like this.
Yeah.
There was never scandals of competency.
Never, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and you know, I get concerned, and I don't even want to say upset because I read this and I expected this and
Yes.
I knew all of this was going to
Fork
happen.
found in the kitchen, yep.
Absolutely. But I think the part that concerns me the most is the fact that it's become so commonplace that it's not shocking.
I was
anymore.
literally going to say, I feel like a lot of us have been desensitized to everything that's been happening with the Trump administration because there's just so much of it that like a lot of us just have stopped caring.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really, really big problem. But I think we've all found common ground that we fucking hate Trump. So, I mean, that's good. And all of his stupid ass crony friends. So, I don't know.
It does suck that whoever's next, ideally not a Republican, is going to have to spend like 4 years trying to rebuild everything. Like with the amount of rank corruption and destruction that's taken place and just like spilling of state secrets, I don't know how you recover from this afterwards.
Crazy.
Like we talk all about like we want Medicare for all, we want all these different things to happen. And that's certainly like we should have a North Star. But so much of like the first 2 years is going to have to be picking up the pieces because they've genuinely broken everything in sight.
Well,
It's
and I
crazy.
think actually, in a weird way, I think that makes the ground more fertile for something drastic.
Maybe, yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the chaos actually makes it easier for you to then go, you know what? Things were so terrible and the economy is so ass. We need to just remove the whole concept of paying for healthcare out of the American equation.
I literally,
Yeah,
when Trump
maybe.
first won, I cried for like 12 hours, obviously. But then I tried to convince myself that the pendulum was going to swing back and also further to the left.
Yeah.
So, like, it kind of gave me hope in a sense, but I'm really, really scared for the presidential and who's going to be the nominee there. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
To be continued.
Yeah, we'll see. But I think we're at a point now where I'm starting to hear from people who I know, even within my family, because I do have one crazy ass Trumper in my family, and he has been like locked in a box away in Highland Park somewhere.
Oh, my
All right.
condolences.
All right.
Yeah, but even he's starting to be like, all right now. And this is a guy who has like a Trump RFK flag in front of his house. Like, when I say this
Okay.
motherfucker went off the deep end, he's gone. Like, we
Jesus
ain't gonna get him
Christ.
back all the way. But even
Yeah.
he's starting to like peek his head out of the fucking basement and go like, you know, maybe we shouldn't be kidnapping people. Maybe we should be. And I'm like,
Bro, who would have thought?
what is
Common
going
sense?
on?
I wish you had had your road to Damascus moment before.
But you know
Yes.
what?
are you gonna do?
Listen. I am of the belief that we can win first and then have our Nuremberg trials afterwards.
Yeah, maybe.
That's my objective.
Yeah.
But anyway, Stella, thank you for joining us.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys for having me. This was super awesome. I love to debrief with you guys.
Yeah, of course. Let's not make it a one-time thing. Jeremy, of course. Thank
Glad
you.
to sub in when I'm needed, man.
Absolutely. The super sub, sixth
Yeah,
man
yeah,
of the
yeah,
year,
yeah.
Jeremy. But with all that said, this is going to be the end of Point of Disorder. Don't forget that you can check us out on all of your social medias. That is YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so on and so forth. You can also follow Head in the Office
Yep.
for all of your hot takes. What was you guys' last episode about on Head in the Office?
Mostly Iran. Like that's been the sort of thrust of all of our podcasts recently, because there's always just some random bullshit going on, and we always have something to say about it. So it's mostly been like Iran and geopolitics.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stella, where can people find more information for you and Michigan College Dems?
Oh my gosh,
and so on and so
say
forth?
less. I was gonna ask if I could plug us. So we are MI College Dems on I think every platform. We primarily use Instagram. MIcollegedems.org is our website. You can check out who the rest of the team is, every chapter that we have, and their information. And then please, if you can, we are trying to mobilize and organize all of these college students going into November, which means next semester we're going to need a lot of money and resources. So micollegedems.org, there's a donate button. If you click that, it leads you to our Act Blue. Donate as much as you can. Since the convention, we've raised over $1,000, like well over $1,000, and we're trying to keep that momentum going. So please, if you can, donate.
There you go. We will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Point of Disorder. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to everyone who listened today. And if you like us, give us a like, a subscribe, or a review on any place you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Distill Social and at The Guerrilla Politic. This is the Point of Disorder podcast, signing off. Stay sharp, stay progressive, and above all, stay tuned.